So if you have a certain helicopter can fly 450 miles before it needs to refuel, suppose the person needs to be flown from a hospital in Minneapolis to one in Chicago. Chicago is 225 miles east and 175 miles south of Minneapolis. Can the helicopter make the trip one way without refueling? So you'd use Pythagorean theorem, I hope, and notice that 175 miles, 225 miles, so it's going to be 175 squared plus 225 squared. And you're trying to figure out is the answer smaller than 450? Because if it is, then I'm fine. Otherwise, the guy's not going to get there. So 175 squared is going to be 3625, 30,625. 225 squared is going to be 50625. So if I add those two together, that's 81,250. But remember, it's that number squared. So I need to take the square root of that to get my answer. So square root of that, that's going to be 285. So yeah, absolutely. It's 285.044, but I'm more interested in the fact that it's less than 450. So yeah, 285, no problem. I can fly from Minneapolis to Chicago. So here's kind of the formula to use. Distance, x minus x squared, y minus y squared. Add them, take the square root. So x minus x squared plus y minus y squared. Add them, take the square root. So if I'm looking here, this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. It's not a bad idea to label those. So when I do this, x minus x squared plus y minus y squared. 11 minus 5 squared plus 1 minus a negative 1 squared. So you've got to be very, very careful with signs and make sure that you get everything right here. So 11 minus 5 is 6 squared. 7 minus a negative 1 is 8 squared. So 6 squared is 36. 8 squared is 64. Square root of 100 is 10. That's my distance. That's how I'm setting it up. And it's not a bad idea to label x1, y1, x2, y2. So number 2, 4 minus the negative 4 squared plus 17 minus 2 squared. 4 minus the negative 4 is not 0. A lot of kids will put 0 here, and then that'll be wrong. It's not 0. 4 minus a negative 4 is 8 squared. Plus 17 minus 2 is 15 squared. So 8 squared is 64. 15 squared, 225. Those together, 289. Square root that, and you should get 17. So 17 is my answer. Shh. So now 2, 3, and negative 4, 6. Well, x1, y1, x2, y2. Until you get good at this, keep with that habit. So negative 4 minus 2, 6 minus 3. Negative 4 minus 2 is a negative 6 squared. I put that in parentheses for a reason. Plus 3 squared. Negative 6 squared. Do not put negative 36. Kids will put that in their calculator and it'll come up negative 36, and they will put negative 36 without realizing negative times a negative has got to be a positive. So when I add that, I get square root of 45. That's going to be my answer. I'll leave it like that too. I could split it apart, but square root of 45 would be fine. Or give me the decimal. Either way, that's fine. So for number 4, x1, y1, x2, y2. So negative 2 minus 4 squared plus negative 5 minus a negative 1 squared. So negative 6 squared plus negative 4 squared. Negative 5 minus a negative 1. It's not going to be negative 6. Negative 5 minus a negative 1, this becomes positive. So that's going to be negative 4. So this becomes positive 36 plus 16. So that becomes square root of 52. If you left it as square root of 52, that'd be fine. If you really want to impress me, simplify it. Give me 2 square root of 13. That would be an awesome answer. Again, think about the context of the problem. If they actually want a distance, give them the decimal. Otherwise, a simplified square root would be awesome. All right, Tracy's golf ball is 20 feet short and 8 feet right to the right of the cup. On her first putt, the ball lands 2 feet to the left and 3 feet beyond the cup. If the ball went in a straight line, how far did it go? So here's the hole. All right, so Tracy's ball is 20 feet short and 8 feet right. And after she putts, the ball lands 2 feet left and 3 feet beyond the cup. How far did she go? Well, Pythagorean theorem twice can give me this, but I've actually got distances here. All right, so 8 squared plus 20 squared. Square root that. Let's see, 64 plus 400. Square root of 464 is approximately 21.54. Now, I got to do the second one. 2 squared plus 3 squared. So that's going to be 4 plus 9. Square root of 13. So that's going to be another 3.61 feet. So when I add those two together, I'm going to get 25.1456. So that's how far the ball went, roughly. So our college campus, Kelly has her first class in Rhodes Hall and her second class is in Fulton Lab. How far does she have to walk between her first and second classes? So now we got to deal with decimals. So how far does she have to walk between her first and second classes? So first one here, then goes to the lab. So you got to figure out 1/4 squared plus 3/8 squared. Take the square root. I know, fractions, everybody's kryptonite. But it's not bad if you actually think about it. So 0.25 squared, this is going to be 1/16 plus 3/8 squared is going to be 9/64. So if I kind of combine, if I get a common denominator and put those two together, I'm going to get 17 out of 64. So 17 out of 64, and take the square root of that, you're going to get approximately 0.5153. So about a half a mile, plus another 1/8 for that extra little bit she has to walk to class. So, redo it in a calculator, plus. So she's final answer is going to be about 0.64 miles is about her distance. So she's got to walk diagonally through everything, then add another 1/8 to get there. So here's kind of where the distance formula comes from. Basically, all you're doing is if I've got a right triangle, I can figure out this distance basically going from Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem says, you know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, to figure this out, I've got to figure out this length and I've got to figure out this length. So this length comes from taking y2 minus y1. That's how far it is from your y to y. This one underneath here comes from taking your second x minus your first x. That gives me this distance. That gives me that b that I can then square. So find the possible values of a if the distance between the points 7, 5 and a negative 3 is 10 units. So follow the rules. x1, y1, x2, y2. Sorry, that's in yellow. You can barely read it. So a minus 7 squared, negative 3 minus 5 squared, all that's going to equal 10. So now it becomes a matter of solving. Well, now it becomes a little bit of a game because I've got to square this, but I've also got to square the other side. So I get a minus 7 squared plus negative 8 squared equals 100. Well, this becomes a positive 64. So if I subtract 64, I'm going to get equals 36. So right now I've got a minus 7 squared equals 36. Okay, hope you followed that. And if you didn't, hit pause, back up, and watch it one more time. So you got a minus 7 squared. So now I got a couple choices here. One, I can say take a minus 7, you know, box method, go a squared minus 14, a plus 49, and solve that. All right, if I do it that way, that's fine. I just subtract 49, or sorry, not subtract 49, bring 36 back over. So I get a squared minus 14a plus 13 equals 0. Factor, so it'd be a minus 13, a minus 1. Set each part equal to 0. So a is going to equal 13, or a is going to equal 1. So now, I can do it that way, or I can get kind of clever. And back here, at this step, what I can do is I can take, oops, I can take the square root of both sides, but I only want to do that if this is a perfect square. So I get a minus 7 equals plus or minus 6. So I get a equals 7 plus 6 and 7 minus 6. So a is going to equal 13 or 1, which is exactly what I got when I did the factoring. I can only do that though if this is a perfect square. So 36 is a perfect square, so it worked. All right, so moving on. 3a, negative 4, 5, and the distance is 58. So I want to take 5 minus 3 plus negative 4 minus a squared, and that equals square root of 58. So first step, square both sides. That gets rid of those. So I get 5 minus 3 squared plus negative 4 minus a squared equals 58. So this becomes 2 squared, better known as 4. If I multiply this out, you know, you can set up the little box method. So negative 4 minus a, negative 4 minus a, positive 16, positive 4a, positive a squared. So it becomes a squared plus 8a plus 16 equals 58. So now if I simplify everything onto one side, that's a squared plus 8a plus 16 plus 4 is 20, but then I've got to subtract 58 over. Yep, that's a 58. So negative 58 plus 20 is going to give me negative 38. Oops. So now factor that. What multiplies to 38, but adds up to 8? So start thinking about factors of 38. Well, 38 and 1. Then you got 19 and 2. And that's it. Because that's about as far as you can go. Once I get down to prime and prime, I can't do it anymore. So that doesn't work. So if this doesn't work, that means that I've got to do quadratic formula. So I go negative 8 plus or minus square root 8 squared times 1 times the negative 38 all over 2 times 1. So negative 8 plus or minus 64 plus 152 all over 2. So negative 8 plus or minus square root of 216 all over 2. So if you want to leave it like that, I'm fine with that. If you want to run the decimal, that's fine too. So one of my answers will be 3.348. The other one will be negative 11.348. So that'll be my answers. Okay, that's all I got. Come talk to me with questions. And this is the end. So after this, you're ready for your quiz.